Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Worknet's fourth webinar. My name is Boaz Arbel, and I'm co-founder and chief revenue officer at Worknet, previously vice president customer success at Profitect and Logs.io, and the leader of the Israeli Customer Success Executive Forum. I'd like to ask our panelists today to introduce themselves and give us their golden tip for customer success. Dear panelists, who would like to go first?
I'm happy to go first. Hi, Boaz. Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to this webinar. My name is Vio. I am a director of customer success here at Slack. I've been at Slack for about 2 years. I look after the UK in here. Before Slack, I was at Box for about 3.5 years. I was also doing customer success for EMEA. And before that, I was in Paris for about 10 years. As you can tell, I'm very French. And when I moved to London, as I was very passionate about customer success, I founded a community of customer success practitioners to help, elevate the profession, make it a tangible and concrete profession. So yeah, here I am. So a tip for customer success is just to share and exchange and never keep learning about the profession. I think it's not rocket science and we can just learn from each other. Yes, just network.
Amen. Let's move from east to west. So Doug.
Sure. My name's Doug Couch. I'm a senior manager at Palo Alto Networks of customer success for a specific area or product, which is XOR from the Cortex line. So I've worked at Palo Alto for the last 3 years. We've been using Slack in our customer success processes during that entire time. I would really say that it's been a game changer for us. It is the way that the vast majority of our clients prefer to connect with customer success. And if I were going to give a golden tip, I would say set expectations correctly up front so that they don't have the wrong expectations around SLA or this being a support line. So, we try to make it really clear up front that we answer as quickly as we can, but this isn't a support line. It's really, an opportunity to connect with everybody. So
music to my ears.
Amen. All right, let's go west all the way. Good morning, Katie.
Thank you. My name is Katie. I am head of support engineering at Monte Carlo Data. I've been here for about 1.25 years now. So for a long time in terms of this company's history. And before that, I was at Segment, right before they got acquired by Twilio. So I was there for a couple of years, also doing support engineering with them. And Doug actually stole my golden tip, which was also set expectation. It's a very noticeable difference between doing a ticketing system versus coming into Slack and trying to manage expectations between what seems like a very real-time communication tool versus letting people know that you obviously are in and out of meetings and all of that. So setting the proper expectations with customers over Slack, I found has been key to our success.
Right. Thank you. And I'm curious to hear more about that and how you do that. So thank you, Vio, Katie, and Doug. Ever since Slack introduced Slack Connect a couple of years back, it has been instrumental for cross-companies collaboration, from POCs to sales engineering to onboarding, ongoing customer success service and support. But how do you do that at scale, right? Are you concerned that customers will abuse Slack channels and circumvent support? Or maybe you fear messages will be missed, or that your customers will expect immediate replies, like you mentioned, Katie. So I'd like to hear from our top customer success leaders today, how they experience Slack and in particular Slack Connect, and learn from you something today. So dear audience, thank you for joining us today. And if you can take away today, one thing, only one thing, how to do better in Slack, we all earned something. So let's just jump right into it. So dear panelists, can you please share challenges that you as customer success leaders face in how Slack has or maybe hasn't helped you solve?
Happy to start as well.
Right.
So as I said, I joined Slack about 2 years ago. And when I was at Box before, I was using Slack as well, but I think maybe 2 or 5% of the capabilities. So mainly using, direct messages, multi-party DMs, channels, the naming convention was not good or whatever. So I couldn't even imagine what I could do in customer success using Slack, which was about, scaling the team, talking to customers in a genuine way, but also collaborating internally in an efficient way as well, right? And when I joined Slack, it came super easy to me to say, okay, that's the way we can actually do things for customer success. And it drove me crazy that none of like all of the CS leaders in the world did not, were not using Slack at the time to do this. Because in terms of automations, when you think about like forecast reminders about that, team efficiencies, automations, you can do this in a quick like this to make it work on Slack. So I think for me it was a game changer to maximize my team efficiencies, making sure we had some bots as well in shared channels with our customers, for example. So Katie, you talked about the boundaries between some teams and being CSM and support, for example. So we have some bots where we have the team, or we have a bot actually sharing newsletters, releases, stuff like this. CSM doesn't have to do it again, which is great. Well, it's not just about team efficiency, but it's also about positioning the CSM in the right position or in the right role. So to me, those are the key things that make like Slack a game changer for me as a CS leader, and that could help solve like all of those key challenges, as I said, like scaling the team, connecting with customers, and collaborating internally as well.
Thank you.
I would say one of the key elements, and just to take a second, the way that we leverage Slack for working with our clients and our customers is that we have a specific channel for the customers. We have open channels where they can discuss between them, but for customer success, for people who actually buy customer success services, they have private channels. And one of the benefits of that is that they can ask us questions pertaining to things that they might not want to put in a public channel. So we can keep their information separate for them. And that's been really beneficial. The thing that I would say Slack Connect has really gotten for us is those people who already leverage Slack in their companies for other communication can then create a channel, join them up, and we have easy access to do that. Otherwise, oftentimes there's a little bit of an adoption issue there without Slack Connect, where we have to encourage them to sign up for this specific Slack channel and join up there. Also, for clients who, for one reason or another, are not allowed to use Slack, I would say like the interaction and the speed of communication is greatly impeded. Like we see response time then becomes the speed of email. And so we really kind of encourage people to use Slack because Slack or Slack Connect, because it really kind of speeds up the ability for us to.
Cool. Thanks. Katie, any other use cases you have faced other than these? Who would you target or who do you communicate with that helps you run your business?
Yeah, well, we do obviously a lot of inter-team communication. I would say probably 90% of our Slack usage is teams talking to each other. Monte Carlo is still just small enough that a lot of tribal knowledge is going on. And so Slack is actually like a huge center for understanding our product right now. We haven't like extrapolated a lot of that logic. So not only are we doing customer success, like with those connect channels amongst our customers, I have the same experience as Doug, when customers aren't using Slack, you have to do email. And I'm personally not even that used to checking my email. I'm almost fully in Slack all of the time. But also even helping onboard new team members is like really, really heavy in Slack right now, because you can like search old messages, you have them organized by channels, and all of those classic stuff that Slack used to do is like a big help right now in terms of Monte Carlo's usage of Slack.
Just to add something as well, both, I think right now, we need to understand that the organization is no longer within four walls. It's way beyond. So we can't just work in silo, just like within the teams. We need to work with partners, customers, vendors, contractors, like all those people. And obviously using shared channels with them is like, again, a game changer and time saver, I would say. Like you need to approve marketing collaterals, you need to hire people through like, hiring contractors, whatever, you still need those people in there. And by doing this, you just increase the response turnaround. Same with customer support. So, I mean, all of the use cases as well is cross line of business, whether it's customer success, support, sales, marketing, recruitment, like all of those teams are benefiting from having shared channels in terms of passing communications and turnaround as a first, key outcome, I would say.
I wanted to come back to something Katie said, actually, that I wanted to expound on a little bit, and that was onboarding new people. One of the real benefits that we have is, as new people are coming in and onboarding, it's very easy for them to shadow. They have access to all the client channels. They can see what kind of answers and responses are being done and pattern their responses after that. So they can look to see if other people have already gotten responses, but it's an excellent opportunity for them to get involved without being visible, right? They're not in a meeting, they're able to see what kind of communication is happening there. So I just wanted to add that as a big benefit as well.
Yeah, I love that because for me, Slack allows you to pick the level of participation that you'd like to be at a specific moment. It can be during the week or weekends. It can be during your onboarding or later on, or if you are an executive who is just sitting there and watching what's going on and can jump in either if someone mentioned you or you realize that your presence is needed. And that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, how early in the customer's journey would you set up a Slack Connect channel?
From Monte Carlo's perspective, we set it up right away. Like the moment we have like an active POC, we set it up.
Agreed.
Yeah, the ease of onboarding customers. When you have new customers coming in, they could like search the Slack history and see links to presentations we've done. We have something called the Monte Carlo method, where it's like a playbook to how to get customers the most successful with us. So we set it up almost immediately, so that during the POC we have as smooth like lice kinks as possible, and then even after that, when they're truly like implementing and going deeper on us, it's so much simpler to just like be linking all of the presentations, to be interacting, even if it's just like once a month check-ins over Slack. So we do it almost immediately.
In our terms, we do it as soon as the customer success journey starts. So not quite pre-sales, but as soon as the sale is completed and we're starting to onboard them, we kick it off immediately and get all the benefit we can. So yeah.
And I think like similar to Katie, we're big time on pre-sales as well. Again, we're a bit biased because we're using Slack, right? So the minute we have like a good lead, also we just like creating shared channel with them. So yeah, it's just the way we do. And obviously like along the way, you're creating different channels for like the different LOBs you might be working with, etc., depending on the purpose of the channel as always. And of course, one tip is to get the right naming convention with your external channels.
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate a little?
Just to make sure that you have, so we have a naming convention at Slack where we start all of our shared channels with X, like external, X dash, and then you name the customer name and then the reason why. Is it like customer success or marketing, or is it like use cases or that type of thing, so that you know exactly what it is about. I think we tend to forget about this, but it's very important first to remember it's an external channel, even though you can see the logo of the customer you're talking to, but also because it gives a good, education as well for customers to name their channels properly as well.
Oh, so what you're saying is that you have customers with more than one Slack Connect channel?
Yes.
Nice.
Exactly. It could be for like, let's say our biggest customers where we have multiple, because again, we're talking to so many different lines of business because they can have Slack use cases everywhere and potentially the stakeholders will be different. Again, the aim is not to overwhelm the CSM. Remember, the CSM will be then here to just help, etc. So it has to be like built with the customer to understand what's the most efficient. Again, education is key. Like the customer cannot DM or send a direct message to the CSM at all times. Everything should happen in shared channels. Reminder, Slack is an open platform. So having public channels is key. Yes, to private channels, Doug, and you mentioned that earlier, it's good for certain, again, project purposes, etc. But the principle is like being an open platform. And it has to be about that. Let's not overthink it. Let's not second guess what we're sharing in channels. I think it's really something super important. So let's do the same with our customers as well. So usually there's like a central, shared channels with our customers. And then if need be, we create some additional ones because there's some, specific project with a specific line of business or department we want to focus on, which would be noisy in the central channel with the customer. So that's usually what we would do.
And just to clarify, the vertical that I work in is cybersecurity. And right, it is really hard to get our customers to share with us anyway. Like some customers just will not release the information necessary for us to help them. And so that's why the private channels are so critical for us. So we have it just with them. They feel a little more comfortable, a little bit more like we're able to keep their information secure. So it's a fact of where I work, Of
course. And internally, do you have more public channels or private channels?
Yeah, absolutely. Internally, it's all public. Yeah. So we try to share as much information inside as we possibly can. And the other thing, sort of along those lines, though, our side of all of those, even the private channels with the customers, our side includes every single person that might possibly support that person. That way, if something comes up and we have to call somebody else into the chat, we have subject matter experts. They're all available. It's really just keeping our customers separate. So that's the key. Yeah.
I'm curious, Doug, and I'd like to hear from you too, Katie. Are you keeping maintenance of these channels and actually also taking people out of the channel when they are done their call of duty? So if they were brought in, did the
Yes.
thing, is
Oh,
someone responsible for taking them out to keep the channel really?
No, not internally. So when you look at our internal lists, we've got 100+ people on our side of the channel. Oftentimes, we're talking about somewhere between 5 and 10 on the customer side, depending upon the group that we're working with. And I would say the maintenance that occurs is usually when the customer is offboarding somebody. And we have multiple times had customer point of contacts move from one of our customers to another customer. So it's really critical for us to take them out of that channel so that they don't continue to have access. But most of that maintenance is on the customer side. We're doing it, but for the customer's change.
Yeah, we rarely ever do. Once we have it spun up, maybe there's a path down the road, 5-10 years, if the Slack channel is really not being used, that we might just shut down the Slack channel altogether if they're not finding it useful. Email is still a totally valid way to get a contact with us. But what we find is we actually want to keep most people in there, because as our customers get more and more onboarded and they expand to more business units within whatever data engineering teams we happen to be working with, or even BI teams, we want them to help each other. So we want to keep a lot of people in there, because we might have one champion or one point of contact who truly understands Monte Carlo really well, or controls the IDP or controls what we call our data collector that sits down. And so we want customers to be able to also reach out to their own people on their side to get help, so that they can kind of help each other. And they only really need to lean on us if they have any particular questions where they can't collaborate internally about, or if they have to tag their CSM in because they have a particular question about roadmap item or something like that. So we like to not clear people out in order to try and encourage that kind of behavior.
Yeah, good point. Carving a channel when the project is over as well, I think is quite important. And another tip as well to educate customers on is to make sure that they're comfortable with leaving a channel. And same internally, I think it's okay. I think every single week I try and go into channels and I just remove myself from some channels where I'm not getting the right information. It's not useful enough for me. So I think it's important to also make it a comfortable action, because it makes sense. It's a pull, type of information request. So we need to make sure we get the most valuable one.
Cool. Thank you. Super interesting. Vio, I'd like you to jump on the next one, please, to hear more about automation in supporting tools over Slack, because Slack is great. Slack Connect even greater, but sometimes we need some more. We need to speed it up. We need to spice it up. We need to support it. What have you experienced both, and what do you see in others?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference between my usage before Slack and now is definitely all the integrations and automation. In Slack, for me as a leader, for the team members, and the way I work, internally as well, you can, the integration that are possible are just limitless. So the minute you think about, okay, I want to spend my day on Slack and I don't want to switch context, then how can I make it work? How can I set some reminders? How can I connect Salesforce or whatever CRM you're using? How can I connect, any customer success platform you have, the Churn Zero, the gains, the whatever? How can you just integrate everything to make your life easy? Most importantly, your team's life easier, right? I think it's super important, always with a view to collaborating internally as well and to make it more efficient. So all of those integrations, the same with the Workday, the HR system, the expense, Concur, you can integrate all of these, again, to make your life as a leader easier as well. Everything is happening onto Slack. And to me, it's just a relief as well. I don't want to multitask that much. It's just everything in one central place. And that to me was a big, big change.
Cool.
I wanted to mention that the product that I represent is actually our automation orchestration platform. And as part of that, we've actually used our own tools to integrate with Slack. One of the things that happens is when we create a new Slack channel for a customer, basically that part is automated, the creation is automated, and then the population of all of the customer success people and support people is all automated based on our roles in the company. So it puts everything in there, and then we invite the clients in, and the clients have the ability to invite who they want. But yeah, so we've automated all of the onboarding. I have every advantage here. I need to take more advantage of it. So I would like to actually, that's one of my goals would be to add more automation into this process. where possible.
Yeah. Onboarding is definitely one where we're seeing most of the automations as well, creating all those workflows for new joiners to feel like they already belong, making sure the manager as well is, looking after the new joiner, and also like connecting with the learning management system, for example, to also monitor the progress, etc. So I think all of those things together make it way smoother as well, and for the new joiner to really feel like he or she belongs to the new organization, which is priceless these days.
Nice. Katie, I'd like to hear from you. What were or maybe still are some of your organizations concerned using Slack with customers and how you handle it?
Yes, handle it might be an aggressive way of saying this right now, but I mean, all of ways, the number one thing is setting expectations right now. Working I'm based in San Francisco, and Monte Carlo does have a team in Tel Aviv, Dublin, and London, but trying to set expectations across the world for support in terms of SLAs and in terms of who they can get access to and when. We do our best to put regions in, or to put resources in their regions, but doesn't always work out perfectly. So I think some of the bigger issues we run into is how to properly make sure people are using those channels to their benefit. We are also, please do not DM. We want to keep everything as public as possible so it's searchable in case someone goes out of the office. Please, DMs are not the best way to go on these things. But I still very much have the problem of having probably too many Slacks. I like to think I tell Slack when I will be on it, but the reality is it's probably the other way, and Slack demands my time during X hours. And I find myself with 200 DMs at any given moment. And so it becomes really a matter of how to I know we don't want to talk about my Slack etiquette. That's not great. But the real challenge is how to get customers to realize that in conjunction to getting their CSM and customer success. So yes, we have this channel. Please reach out to us when you need help. But please also be aware your CSM might be in meetings for the next 4 hours. And we'll do our best to respond really quickly or bring in another resource to help or anything like that. But being overwhelmed by the amount of channels and the amount of people who try and pull on any string you give them is a big challenge. And I would say I have not solved it, considering I still have 200 DMs.
And I think it's even worse since the pandemic, obviously, because the way we operate, collaborate, communicate, it's changed so much. And there's we won't go back to what it was before. So it's going to be distributed, remote, virtual, hybrid, whatever, but it's going to be different. And I think right now people are looking much more for flexibility in the way they work. And it's not just, again, internally within the four walls of the organization, but with our customers as well, and partners and vendors. So how can you just, again, as you said, Katie, set the boundaries and make sure, okay, this is how flexible I can be. This is the type of work we can do asynchronous as well, using Slack, or the clips, or all the features that are just, in terms of digital HQ that we're building right now, to make it digestible for the customer, but also for ourselves, to make it, to have a pleasant life in a way, and make it better for our well-being, I would say, because 200 DMs is way too much. So I think it's also on us to, accept this, acknowledge this, and make sure customers understand that as well, that we're human beings, we've been through a lot. This is the new way for us to operate and collaborate and communicate. Yeah.
Definitely.
I was going to say, I wanted to jump in with that too and say, setting expectations both internally and externally, right? A lot of times we talk about setting expectations with the customers, but also setting expectations internally and saying look, I really don't expect you to be operating outside of your time zone or, being on Slack, because we're all working remotely. You do not need to be on Slack answering either internal or external concerns at 9 p.m. at night. You should be spending time with your family and, doing the right thing there and taking care of yourself. Also, we have public Slack channels that can be basically anybody can sign up for. And then we have the internal ones that people actually pay for. And one of the things that I have to caution new employees not to do is to reveal themselves as a customer success agent in the public channels, because then they're susceptible to getting DMs from people who don't pay for the service. So, we kind of have to set some boundaries there as well.
Interesting.
I'd like to finish with getting your opinion. What's your take on the future of using Slack for companies, especially with customers? Is that going bigger? Is that going to be changed?
I think it's critical. I think it's only going to grow. The type of communication that it allows, and the fact that my team can operate holistically and not just have, you know, a one-on-one conversation, but a one to like my entire team, my entire group of professionals is really invaluable. I don't see a good way to do it as quickly and as efficiently as we use Slack. And so I think it's part of what we do moving forward in almost every aspect for customer success.
I would definitely agree. I do not think it's going away, but I do also think your audience and the size of the corporation does matter. I have found with some of our larger contracts, it's actually easier to coordinate over email sometimes. And in support engineering, when you're debugging like a particularly hairy issue, Slack doesn't always provide like the best way for me to be like, this screenshot, this paragraph about expected behavior, like these 3 other screenshots, and then this longer guide. It's maybe not always the best platform. And so there are definitely ways we do outside of that. And also we work with data engineers a lot of the time. And so it's really kind of like what flow works best for the engineers to reach out to us. And we have like a chat bot, and we actually get a decent amount of questions over the chat bot versus over Slack because people are in the product itself. And then they just like coordinate with us that way. So I don't think Slack Connect is definitely going away. We will always have it and it will more than likely grow, but I am finding there are some like edge cases where maybe like Slack Connect doesn't provide the best customer experience for the end goal.
I would love to see Slack as a trend, as the key trend in terms of, you know, customer collaboration and communication, obviously. Much more than that, Slack is more than a platform or a product. It's really a philosophy of working. And I think by infusing that to customers in the way we work, in the way we embrace flexibility, in the way we automate the work, then we can make a better, better working environment for everyone. Again, back to the idea that it's not just within the 4 walls of the organization, but beyond that, we as individuals, as CS leaders, we need to infuse that as much as possible. So this philosophy around flexibility, connectivity as well, inclusion, all those things go through having those relationships, genuine ones, with our customers through shared channels. That's the way I see that as well.
All right, cool. So I personally hope Slack doesn't go anywhere, just up and to the right, obviously. So thank you very much for joining us today, Vio, Katie, and Doug. Awesome contribution. Thank you to our audience that showed for the 4th time. And next webinar in a month.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Cheers.
Bye-bye.